Well, we'll kind of get started here as you guys are joining, but I'd love it if you guys would join as panelists, turn on your cameras so we can interact a little bit. And for those of you that haven't been on one of these webinars before, we do our kind of we do a lot of webinars with Workman. We do a lot of great stuff. So we have our Thursday weekly role plays. If you haven't gotten an opportunity to hop on any of our role play calls, they are fantastic. Especially for your team members to go through some of the scripting and through the shift modules that we offer, which are just kind of some ways to overcome objections in our current market. So we're always coming up with new stuff, new shift modules that talk a little bit about the changing market and how we overcome the concerns that we're hearing on a daily basis from our clients. And we get a lot of that feedback from our large database of clients that we work with. So it's not just central to a certain area. It's going to be throughout the whole United States. So join those webinars. We've got our monthly CEO masterminds. We've got all kinds of great opportunities out there. So I appreciate you guys joining me today for the listing mastermind. I guess that's kind of a mastermind. We're going to do a little bit of talking amongst everybody. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll kind of get started. I'll do a screen share, and we'll get right to it. We got a lot of good stuff on tap today, and wait until the end. We will be rolling out our new spring 120-day listing challenge. So for those of you that did the listing challenge last year, we did a summer version, and then we did a fall one as well. I see a couple of our winners on the in the room today, so that's great. We'll be rolling out our new one for spring, and I hope we can make it bigger and better than ever this year. And just kind of I'm just gonna roll it out before we even get there. The big surprise is I'm going to be your host this year. So I'm going to host the 120-day challenge. So I'll be on the calls. I think we do 6. Taylor, do we do about 6 calls throughout the challenge? Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then
Okay.
power hour calls sprinkled throughout.
Yep. So we've got the power hour calls, which is really cool. I think Janice, did you host a power hour call in the listing challenge? I'm trying to think who all hosted power hour calls, but Janice does host some of our role play calls. So hop on our role play calls. And but anyway, we've got a lot of good stuff today. So we're going to go through some challenges and talk a little bit about what's going on in our market and how we can improve some of our listing stuff. So I'm going to do a quick screen share, and we'll go from there. We're also going to hear from Trevor from Vulcan 7 today. He is going to be one of our sponsors for the or our main sponsor for our listing challenge. He's going to talk a little bit about what his company does and how they're going to support us in our 120-day listing challenge. And it's going to be awesome. So Taylor, if you don't have it, and I don't know if I have it from before, will you have ready for me at the end of the presentation our final numbers from the last type of listing challenge, or from the last listing challenges? I'd love to see and present to everybody kind of what we did in those challenges before, because it's pretty tremendous, like millions of dollars in commissions made and lots of homes sold. So anyway, let's get to it. Perfect. All right. So today we are talking about listing leverage and how to dominate the listing market in any market. So my name is Nick Painz. I'm a coach for Workman Success Systems. I'm a managing broker for Remax Alliance in Westminster, Colorado, and Denver metro area. And I'm a team lead for a small team. So I'm excited to be here with y'all today. And Taylor, would you monitor the chat for me and let me know if there's anything pressing I need to look at? Thank you. All right. Let's talk about a little bit about some of the challenges that we have in our market today. Who read the news this morning? Who read the CPI data reports from this morning? And give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if they're good for our rate market. Okay, they're not good for our rate market. CPI data came out, and inflation is still running rampant, right? So what does that mean for us as real estate agents? What does that mean for consumers? What does that mean for home buyers? We've got rising interest rates. We've got rising inflation. We've got rising costs. We've got class action lawsuits. Let me ask anybody in here that I can at least see here. Anybody still worried about the class action lawsuit? Like, are we past that yet? Can we like skip talking about class action lawsuit? Are you guys okay with me saying, hey, we all got that, we're still getting paid what we think we need to get paid? We good on that? Beautiful. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the class action lawsuit. So, all right. So let's talk about a couple of things. This is an interesting, I guess, image that we've talked about a lot about with Workman. And I've got to admit to you guys, when I first saw this, and I think Cleve Gaddis is the one that explained this kind of wheel, this emotions wheel, when we first started. And I remember not really understanding it when I first saw it. And I was like, I don't really get the point here. And so the idea here is it shows how we facilitate emotional transformation. Okay, so the idea is we want to take our clients from feeling helpless to feeling empowered, right? And so I don't know if anybody attend my emotional intelligence webinar from a couple weeks ago. I did was that 2 weeks ago, Taylor, something like that. Anyway, the last webinar I did for Workman was a couple weeks ago. And we talked a lot about emotional intelligence and about having emotionally intelligent conversations with people. Okay. And how that we talked about AI as well. So how we can use artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence to kind of up our game in real estate. But this wheel, this emotions wheel, really helps us break down kind of the 6 major emotions into actual feelings that help us connect with our clients, right? So right now, somebody, they might feel fear, or they might feel anger, okay, about our particular market. But what we really want to do is we really kind of want to find out what that means, right? And a lot of times what we can do is we can either work from the outside of the wheel in, or we can work from the inside of the wheel out, right? And so what we need to understand, when somebody feels fear, do they really feel fear, or do they feel helpless? Right? And what we can do is, if we can get this broken down and understand that all of these feelings that, for example, in fear, this is what most people are feeling right now in our market when it comes to buying or selling a home. They're feeling helpless, right? They're feeling worried, or they're feeling anxious about what is going on. And if we can understand that all those things kind of boil down to fear, what is, Chris, I'm gonna have you come off mute for a second. What do you think is the number one? What do you think is the reason for fear? Chris Winstead, what is the reason for fear?
Lack of information, don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's lack of information. It's lack of education, right? So generally, if we can understand something a little bit better, right? Most fears, just in general, most fears are irrational, right? Most fears that we have are truly irrational fears. Okay, somebody come off of mute, give me an example of a rational fear. Give me an example of a truly rational fear.
Sharks.
Lisa Bender, give me a rational fear.
Skydiving without a parachute.
Okay, that's Trevor. That's a good one. Lisa, what else? What's another rational fear?
Fear of job loss.
Fear of, I'm sorry?
Fear of losing your job.
Okay, that could be. Okay, but if you carry inherent talents and you carry, so you understand that you have a true value, then you might be able to replace that. Okay, Trevor's example of jumping out the plane without a parachute. I suppose there's things you could do to prepare for that, not doing that in the first place, right? How about let's see, Mary? How about a Mary DeVore? How about an irrational fear? What's an example of an irrational fear?
How to handle interest rates, what to do with it, with the rates going up, what are their options?
Okay, give me something real life. Let's forget about real estate. What's an irrational fear in life?
Health issues.
Why is that irrational?
If it depends, well, it depends on where they're coming from, if it's a specific one. Okay, so let's say they're worried about having a heart attack, but they're perfectly healthy, and it's their mindset of it's hereditary, so they're gonna get it too, no matter what.
That's right. So an irrational fear is something that there's no grounds for, right? We don't have any. There's no data to support it, right? So I'll give you a great example. Fear of flying is a semi-irrational fear. Okay, I can tell you that if you truly did, have something, if your plane crashed, it'd be a horrifying thing to have happen. But the reality is travel by flight, by airplane, is the safest form of travel on the planet, outside of probably not travel, right? And so fear of spiders, fear of sharks, okay? Let's look at the data. How many shark attacks are there? How many people die from shark attacks every year? How many people die from spiders every year? Okay. Far more people die from dogs every year than die from sharks. So why are we not afraid of dogs? Right. And so it's because we have an understanding that, yeah, people can die from dogs, but the reality is that for the most part, that's not the case. You can go up and you can pet them and they're great. Same thing with spiders. You could have a spider crawl all over you and it's probably not going to do anything. And it all comes down to education. What happens is in our real estate market is people just don't understand what these things mean. So it is our goal, okay, to understand that emotion that people have. And then what we need to do is we need to get them past this sticking point. Most people just feel stuck. Okay. So what happens is when they're scared, when they're frustrated, when they're anxious, when they're worried, we get this pause in life, right? We get this inaction. And so if we have inaction, then obviously we can't do our jobs. We've got a buyer that won't buy and a seller that won't sell. There's nothing for us to do. Okay. So our job, our only job, is to educate our clients and give them options. So I think I stole this from Cleve, and maybe Cleve stole it from somebody, but our job as real estate agents is we are options dealers. Our job is to present options to our clients, okay, each with an intended outcome, and then we allow our clients to make choices. So you could do this, or you could do this. If you do this, you have these two potential outcomes. And if you do this, you have these two potential outcomes. Which way would you like to go? Okay. And if you notice there, one of the options is not to do nothing, right? So when I'm giving my clients options, it's not to stay where you are. Okay. It's you can go left or you can go right. And if you go left, you can do this. And if you go right, this could happen. But one of the options isn't to stay where you are. Okay, so we have to just be options dealers, and we do that through education. Okay, and if you feel yourself like, well, I don't know what to educate, that's where the things like our shift modules and our scripts and our role plays come into play. Learn to get to that, learn the conversations that you need to have to get people to that next level. Right. So let's talk a little bit about why you must list to last. Okay, listing agents leverage other agents in the market to help sell your listing. First of all, okay, so all we got to do is we got to get the listing up, and then other people show our listing. We don't have to drive a buyer around to 30, 40 different houses. Okay, we spend far less time on listings. Okay, and we make the same, sometimes even better income. We have the opportunity to market to that listing. Okay? It's really hard to market to buyers. And be like, hey, we just helped this buyer buy this house. We'd love to help you as a buyer buy your house. It's much easier to be like, hey, I've already sold 3 homes in your neighborhood. I know it really well. Please give me a call when it's time to sell your home, right? Permission to grow and build your database. Success with signs creates success with more signs, okay? Listings beget listings, okay? Get a listing, you'll get another listing, you'll get another listing, like be listings focused, right? And we tend to generate, and we are currently reworking these numbers a little bit through Workman with all the data points that we have. But historically, one listing tends to generate 1.5 buy-side transactions. Okay, so through our marketing efforts, through our open houses, through our circle prospecting, through our sign calls, all that type of stuff, through our online marketing, we should be able to generate 1.5 buy-side transactions. Okay. That's why listings are important, because it just grows overall. You get one buyer, you get one buyer. You get one listing, you get 1.5 buyers on top of that. And listings beget listings, right? Let's talk about some of the kind of gold level prospecting activities. I think the number one problem that agents have, okay, in our industry, and why they don't produce the way they'd like to produce, is because A, they don't know what they should be doing. They come in and they go, they're just waiting for their phone to ring. Like, what should I be doing to get listings? And then B, even if they do know what they're supposed to be doing, because maybe they've got a good team leader, a good broker that gives them some guidance, we're not doing it the right way. We're not going through the right processes. We're not having the right conversations. Okay. So let's talk about some of our different prospecting activities. Okay. So we have some statistics based on what we call daily success habits in Workman. Okay. We track thousands of people's daily success habits, and it's how many calls they make, how many contacts come of those phone calls. I think I've got some more statistics later in the slides, how many appointments we set off of that. And we can kind of come to an understanding that the way that we go through these things is if we can get 221 appointments, okay, we should be able to convert those around 25%. And that's 55 listing or buyer agreements, okay? So if we have 5 minutes per contact or per conversation, and we can get 18 conversations to have one appointment, and 18 conversations takes 90 minutes, then 90 minutes is what it takes to get one listing appointment, right? And if we convert those at 25%, it means it takes us 6 hours to get one listing, okay? And if our average payment or our average pay is, I don't know, $15,000 for a listing, 6 hours to make 15,000 bucks plus the time it takes to work the listing. Okay, Dominic, let me ask you, how long does it take you from the time you secure the listing? So like somebody calls you, I should say, and says, Dominic, I want you to sell my home, to the time you close, how many hours do you work with a seller, you personally?
Nowadays, 2 hours.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, that's crazy, there's no way Dominic does a listing in 2 hours, then you have not leveraged your time properly. If you're thinking like, oh my God, listings take me 20, 30 hours, okay, then you need to come up with a better systematic approach, and you need to leverage the things that are taking you the most time, okay? So Dominic, when you get a listing, do you personally put it into the MLS?
No. I'm
Do you
embarrassed to say
personally
'cause
send
some of
over
my
the
team is on
disclosure?
this call, Nick. I'm embarrassed to say I don't even know how to do that anymore. But I will share though. It took a long time to get to that point, and I will say we have amazing transaction coordinator, virtual assistant, listing coordinator, and never go on the listing appointment alone. So some of those people are with me on those listing appointments, and I would say prospecting time to getting the listing appointment to negotiations and closing, my personal time is about 2 hours.
Yeah, right. And so that's the value of building a good team and having good systems and processes in place, right? And so the reality is the value, let me ask, Jenny Wilson, where is the value of a transaction? Is it in the transaction itself, or is it in the acquisition of the lead?
The acquisition of the lead.
Yeah. So I don't know, give me like off the cuff, if you and I were to split a deal, you acquired the lead and I ran the transaction, how much money, what percentage of the commission do you think you should make for the lead acquisition, and how much money do you think I should make for running the transaction?
The way I do it is I pay my assistant to take care of all of that stuff, and I pay her $50 for the listing part of it and $75 for the closing transaction coordinator part.
Okay, so if it's a $10,000 listing, I maybe, for being transactional in it, for doing the paperwork and stuff like that, I maybe make a couple $100 and you make the rest, right?
Correct.
Okay, and if I went ahead and like negotiated the deal and I took care of everything else, how much more would you potentially pay me?
Maybe 15%.
There you go. Okay, so just off the top, the lead acquisition is worth at least 85% of the deal, right? So why are we as agents spending the majority of our time being transactional instead of spending the majority of our time acquiring the leads, when we know that the value of the deal is all in the acquisition of the lead, and then we can automate or delegate almost everything else? That's the biggest focus problem that agents have nowadays, is they're not focused on the right activities. They get so excited that they're involved in a transaction and they want to have such high level of service. They think it's high level of service because they're always in contact with their client. The client doesn't need to always have this high level of contact. They just need to have expectations and know exactly what the transaction is going to look like, and then you execute upon that. We need to make sure that we understand what the value of the prospecting is, not the value of the transaction. The transaction is where you get paid, but the prospecting activity is how you acquire the transaction. That's kind of the numbers that we just talked about. It's a really good hourly wage. That's what it comes down to. Okay. And actually, I think here it takes 90 minutes to do a listing appointment, and then we put here 90 minutes to get a listing. That's not true. We only have a 25% closing rate. So anyway, your per hour is still like $1,800 an hour. It's pretty good. Okay. So let's talk about how to take control in a shifting market. So we've had a major shift in our market over the last 3 years, right? Anybody that was selling real estate in early 2022, 2021, very different market. So we've got to start eliminating seller and buyer fear and uncertainty. We got to start having better conversations, and we use what we call threat elimination systems and emotional transformational communication. So kind of that EI factor that we talked about. We need to understand the pre-listing and the premium listing marketing process. We got to be giving a high level of service, and we got to grow our listing inventory. We got to be listings focused. Okay. So what does this look like? Well, we've got 3 types of people that we're going to look at here. So we got the planner. They spend 50% of their time planning what they're going to do. And then they have like a certain skill set that they have in order to do that. And then they spend about 25% of their time taking action, right? And then you've got the rookie, okay? They have no plan or very little plan at all. They don't have very many skills, and they just get out there and they just start doing. So it's cool. I love it. They're knocking on doors, they're making phone calls, but they're not having the right conversations. They're not saying the right things. They're not doing the right things, right? And when they start getting the results from all this action that they're taking, and it's not very good, then they think this doesn't work. Making calls doesn't work. Knocking on doors doesn't work. Hosting open houses doesn't work. No, it's because you didn't have a good plan going in. You didn't have good structure going in, and you're not having the right conversations, right? So this is what a top producer looks like, okay? We've got a high level of skill. And in this market, this is what is important. We call this a skills-based market. When we're talking about 2021 and 2022, do you believe that you needed a ton of skill to sell a listing in the 2021, 2022 early market? No. You had to get the client. That was tough, right? How many of you wish you had more listings in 2021, 2022? And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I got to get those listings. And then you got into 2023, 2024, and you got a bunch of listings, and now they're sitting, and you're like, what the heck? I wanted to be more listings focused. I was. 2021 passed, 2022 passed. Now I got more listings, and now they're not selling. And so what happens is we now have to be more skilled. We can't be the agent that we once were. We can't be the agent that everybody was in 2021 and 2022. We have to have more skills. We have to be able to price properties the right way. Okay. And I promise you that most of you know how to price a property. I believe that. I really, truly believe you know how to price a property. I also believe that most of you don't know how to have the proper conversation with the seller to agree with you. That's where I think we have pricing problems. I think you guys are really good at pricing properties. And I hope you guys understand, I'm not saying you guys in this room, I'm saying the collective of all agents nationwide. Do we believe as agents in this room right here, do we believe that overpricing is a problem in our current local market? Does anybody believe that, like, nope, everybody's doing a good job pricing their properties? No. Or they'd be selling. So when we're thinking about, like, when we look and we've taken our buyers out and we go, yeah, that place is overpriced. Yeah, that place is overpriced. I believe it's a collective. It's one, we've got a problem with agents that know how to price properties. Okay. And secondly, we've got agents that know how to price properties. They just don't know how to have the conversation with the seller to get them to agree with them. But the reality is they hired us because we're professionals. They hired us because we're the ones that are supposed to know what we're doing, right? And so if I go and I say, well, look, I've done a lot of research on your property. Here's the comps. Here's all the things. I think your property, I think we're going to be best listing at 475. And they go, oh, Nick, I think I want to do 500. Do I just give in and go, all right, well, let's try it at 500? No, I give them options. I go, okay, well, let me give you a couple scenarios. Option number one is we list for 500. Here are the 2 potential scenarios. Okay. Scenario number one, I'm wrong. And you get 500,000 and we're all really happy. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you get 500,000. Okay. Option 2 is you don't. We sit on the market for 2 to 3 weeks. You become a little bit more frustrated. Okay. We lower the price, but now we look shop worn. Okay. We don't do a big enough price reduction. People see it as a gimmicky price reduction. And we ultimately end up at 475, and we still don't sell for 475 because now we've been on the market too long and people are wondering what's wrong with the property. Now, I gave you 2 scenarios for option number 1, but let me tell you why scenario number 1 isn't really going to happen. Here's all the comps. You've never had a property in your neighborhood sell for 500,000. In fact, your most recent comp is the nicest home. Here's some pictures. I'd love you to take a look at these pictures and see how does it compare to, your property, for example. And you already know that it's nicer. And that one sold for 488. Now, here are some of the market statistics. Since that property sold, our market's actually down 1.5%. So if we use that as a comp at 488 and come 1.5% off of that, we're down actually around 481. So 475 is more in line with getting that immediate traffic, that first weekend that we're looking for, maybe getting multiple offers and finishing up somewhere around that 475 to 480 mark. But if we list at 500, we're going to miss. So those are your options. We can list at 475. We can get under contract hopefully very quickly, get a nice contract, fewer contingencies, or we can go at 500. Your two options up here, either A, I'm wrong and you get 500, which I would hope would be the case, or scenario number 2, which is what I just laid out for you. Which way do you want to go? And I think any reasonable individual that's going to hire you is going to understand, okay, they took some time and effort and, hopefully they looked at your accolades and see that you're a top listing agent in the area, and that's why they hired you in the first place. Okay. So we got to make sure we're having the right conversations, and that comes from the skills and the practice of going through the role play and the conversations that we're having with these sellers. I'm not going to go over this because we have different stats after that. I think we came up with, Harry, are you on the call? Yeah, there you are, Harry. We came up with what, 200 and, are we at 225 calls right now?
225.
Perfect. So our latest stats, it takes 225 prospecting calls to get a deal according to our daily success habits points that we've tracked over the last year. So 2023 and 2024 are very similar in that. Okay, but these are prospecting calls. These are not calls to your friends and family like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? These are outbound prospecting calls. Okay. So one of the things that we talk about when we're talking about like your sphere, okay, are what we kind of just refer to as your 3-2-1s. Okay. Really simple. Talk to 3 people in your sphere of influence every single day. Okay. Prospect until you find 2 new people who are considering selling within 6 months, and learn 1 new thing and start implementing it. Take a class, go to a Workman webinar, learn something, go to a role play, learn something and start to use it. Read a book, start to use it, right? Like these tasks are so simple when you really think about it. It just takes a little bit of dedication, determination, and discipline to execute on a daily basis. Our jobs are really not that hard. In fact, I think it's very simple. Okay. The difference is it takes a lot of discipline in order to execute. Let's talk a little bit about kind of what we need to do to prepare. These are some of the things that I added. These come from my business that I think are key to your listings and developing your listings. So these are hopefully some takeaways that you can do if you think about, oh, I already do this in my business, or oh, I should do this in my business. There's some things to think about, because again, this is a little different than our 2021 market, 2022 market, where we could go in and say, look, we're going to put your home up. We expect to have somewhere between 10 and 14 offers within the first weekend. We're going to sit down. I'm going to put them in a spreadsheet for you. We're going to pick the best one and move on. It's a little different now, right? We have to have some more value. We have to have a little bit more intention in the way that we do things, right? So what do we do to prepare for a listing appointment? Somebody come off of you. Talk to me about your listing prep. What do you do for a listing prep?
Run the
Before you
comps.
ever go on the listing appointment.
Run the comps.
Run comps. What else?
Everything else is prepared. All I have to do is run the comps. I can have it on an iPad or whatever. I've got a go bag with listing presentations ready to go.
Okay, cool. So now, Chris, let me ask you, do you do a 1-step or a 2-step listing presentation? Meaning, do you try to sign a listing agreement right like that first time you meet them, or do you have a 2-step process?
I try. Yeah, definitely try.
Anybody else? What else do you do to prepare for?
Oh, we also drop a pre-listing packet off
There you
before
go.
the listing appointment. Yeah.
Pre-listing packet. Cool. What's in that pre-listing packet?
It's the Workman one. My bag's over there, but it's the selling homes fast. Oh, boop.
Okay.
This one.
So, what are you doing to impress the client before you get there? Are you just showing up? Are you, bringing you're bringing like some nice material about the property? You know, what are the things
So,
that you're doing that's different than the agent that just shows up at the door?
got it. Got you, Nick. All right. So as the lead comes in to like get the appointment, they get a weekly postcard from us. Right. So they're getting that every week. Once they book the appointment, like an assistant, one of the runners drops off pre-listing packet. If I'll look it up on Google Maps, and if Google Maps says it's restricted access, meaning there's like a gate or something, we'll mail it out to them over there.
Yep.
And then day of the appointment, hey, like, let's go look at the house. I'm like, hey, look, actually, houses don't have a heart or soul or anything. Like, I want to connect with you and figure out if we can trust each other enough to work with each other. Because if the house needs to be painted or this needs to be repaired, it's an inanimate object. What we have to go is from strangers to friends and figure out if we want to work together. And then we sit down at the table, kind of discuss what's going on. Once we've agreed to work together, then we tour the home and then go over the comps.
Sure. I love that. So, you know, we've got the process before that sets the tone for what they're about to experience. Okay. I'm a huge believer in setting expectations. Okay. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to come to your house. We're going to walk through. They already know what we're going to do when I get there. Okay. So we set the expectation. I bring along my pre-listing package. I have a home book that I send out that's got all the information about the property, their utilities, their schools, the local neighborhood, the crime ratings, like all that type of stuff. Send that stuff over. Okay, I literally pull all that stuff from RPR, and I have an assistant that does that and sends it over, and it looks professional. It's in a leather bound like book, right? So what are you doing to prepare to go over there? I take comps, but I do a two-step process. So I comp and then I recomp. That way I don't go in telling somebody like, oh, this is what your home is worth. And then I get there and I'm like, oh, wow, it's not worth that. So, you know, think about your process as you go through. And I can tell you the biggest thing, I have two pieces of advice that I'll give you guys from a listing standpoint that I think changed the way that my listing business, I mean, I used to literally do nothing but work with buyers, and then I started being more listings focused, and it changed the growth of my listing business. And it was two things. The first one was making sure that when I go on a listing appointment, that I am there to create the experience that they're looking for, not the experience that I think they should be looking for. Okay, this one was game changing to me. I used to go into listing appointments and I go, look, you know, I'm a top agent, and I didn't say that, but I knew in my mind, like, okay, I'm a top agent. I know what I'm doing. I know how to list. Here's what it's going to look like. I'll let you know when to see me at the closing table. Like, I'm going to take care of it. Here's what it's going to look like. And I went from that to I don't know when my eyes were opened, but it was like, well, that was what a perfect listing looked like for you, but what did it look like for the client? So now one of the first things I do after touring the home, we sit down and I go, well, thanks so much for showing me your home. Dominic, let me ask you, if 30 days from now or 45 days from now, we're sitting at the closing table and you look back and you go, wow, that was a perfect transaction. What does it look like? Right? And what'll happen is they'll start telling you, Dominic's going to tell me what that perfect transaction looks like for him. And it's probably not what I'm envisioning, because the chances that Dominic and I are envisioning the same exact thing are basically zero.
I would say from their perspective, a seller's perspective, like for me, I would say netting the best price possible. I'd say helping me figure out logistically how to get out of this house and into the new house and making that smooth, because there's a lot of stress when it comes to moving and moving pieces and logistics, and taking care of pets and making sure my this is easy on my family. Those would be probably my top things.
So watch this. I'm going to go to my next slide. This is what I think a perfect transaction looks like. Is that what Dominic just said? It's not. Dominic mentioned his pets and his family and creating the logistics to get into the new home. That's not what I think is this is what I think is the perfect transaction. I go into every transaction telling my sellers, my goal is to sell your property in the least amount of time with the least amount of inconvenience to you for the most amount of money. Okay, because I think that's what a perfect transaction looks like. But Dominic didn't say that. Dominic said, I want this to be, again, maybe that thought, goes into the least amount of inconvenience with pets and family and that type of stuff, right? Maybe that falls into that category, but he wants to also know logistically how it's going to get him into the next home, right? And maybe selling in the least amount of time does not align with getting into his next place. Maybe he needs some more time to get into that next place, right? And so we just need to make sure we're asking the questions, and then I need to alter my ability to work that transaction based on what they're looking for, okay? Versus go, well, thank you so much, Dominic, for that. That's not the way I sell houses. I sell houses like this, and you're gonna like it, right? Like, we don't do that, okay? But the problem is we do it subconsciously without even knowing it, because we go in to sell the house the way that we know to sell the house without asking them how they want the experience to be. That was transformational for me, was going in and start asking how people wanted their experience to be versus how I thought it should be. And I think that'll change your business too. Now you just got to get in, you got to make sure you have those conversations first. Pre-listing, we already talked about that. I don't want to talk about the class action advantage, but we do have resources on that. So if you're still having issues with your class action stuff, we have a class action advantage system for that. Okay. And we have a bunch of scripts. Now we have some really cool giveaways at the end of this as well. We'll give you a QR code that you can download a lot of this stuff. We have listing agent scripts. We have scripts for your calls, things that you can talk about on the prospecting calls that you make with your current clients, how to overcome the potential objections that are out there. Okay. So we'll give you kind of copies of these things as well. Okay. So there's one other thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm forgetting what it was. Let's see, because I said there were two pieces of advice I want to give you on your listing appointment. What was the other one? Oh, the other one is this. So the first one is, how do we create the transaction that they are looking for? Okay. And then I really want you to think about, what is the thing that is truly unique about your business that you do differently than everybody else that's out there? Because when I ask this question to other agents, I always get some non-unique response. This takes some time. Like I guarantee there's a bunch of you sitting right there that go like, I don't know, I guess I don't really know what I do that's like truly unique, and that you could potentially prove that's unique. And I think this is gonna filter into to a little bit what Trevor will talk about. But let me tell you one fun thing that we do, okay, that we can prove the uniqueness. And here's the thing, it shouldn't be unique. Anybody can do it. I just know that they don't. Okay. So I want to tell you one of the things that we do, and this helps us not only on the prospecting side when we're prospecting for listings, but it also helps us at the listing appointment. Okay. So what are the things that we do differently? So first of all, we do this, we try to attract the call or the lead by marketing to this unique thing that we do. Okay. So I'll send out postcards, for example, that says, let's say I'm farming, and it'll say, interested in selling your home, or want to know what your home's worth, or something like that, or whatever catch line we want to use. And it'll say, call us or talk to us or have a conversation with us to find out what we do differently than every other agent in your area, or something like that, right? And a lot of times we'll target it to a neighborhood where we see that there's a bunch of homes that are sitting on the market for a while. And we send out one of those postcards, and at the bottom it says, if you're currently listing your home, this is not meant to be a solicitation of your business, but yes, it is. Because I'm going to say, hey, homes in your market not selling as quick as you'd like them to, or homes, want your home to sell faster than your local market, call us to find out what we're doing differently. And then all I have to do is they give us a call and they go, oh, well, what do you guys do differently? And then we have to prove that we do something differently. And this is where somebody like Trevor and Vulcan 7 come into play. Here's what we do differently, and here's how we can prove it. We circle prospect our listings. Okay. And there may be some of you guys in here that go, oh, we circle prospect. That's not unique. I guarantee it is in your market. And here's how you prove it. Okay. So let's see, who do we got here? Let me, I'm going to call my old friend, Catherine Ross. How are you, Catherine?
I am doing great. How are you?
Good. Good. Hey, I'm going to ask you, you're going to be my seller. Okay.
Okay.
And I say, Catherine, one of the things that we do a little bit differently is we do something called circle prospecting. So I know, your listing expired a couple months ago and you're thinking about relisting, and obviously we're so grateful for the opportunity to at least have a conversation with you. Let me ask you, did your previous agent do any circle prospecting?
Not that I know of. No.
Do you know what that is?
No.
So circle prospecting is the proactive approach to sell your home instead of the reactive approach. Okay. And so while most agents will put a sign in your yard and then they'll maybe hold an open house and maybe send out some marketing and they'll wait for their phone to ring. Okay. That's the reactive approach. We take a proactive approach. So we're actually making outbound calls to try to find a buyer for your home, right? So you live in a beautiful neighborhood, and your neighbors probably have friends, they have family that might say, man, I'd love to live in your neighborhood. So we call them and we look for a buyer. Okay. And Catherine, do you know why I know that that's unique and why we're the only ones that do that?
No. How do you know?
When's the last time that there was a home for sale in your neighborhood and you received a call asking if you knew somebody that would be interested in potentially buying the house that's for sale down the street from you?
I don't think I ever have.
You never have, right?
Right.
Right. So I know that the proactive approach that we take is unique in this market, and I can prove it because all I have to do is say, when's the last time you had it happen to you?
Right.
And so it's funny. Is it a unique approach? Yeah, I suppose it is. It shouldn't be, right? But it's something that we can go out and we can make our prospecting phone calls and say, hey, Trevor, Nick here. I'm calling about your property on 123 Main Street. Hey, do you know why it didn't sell? Blah, 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 blah. Hey, I don't want to take a ton of your time. I know you're probably getting a ton of these calls, but I just like the opportunity, if you give me 45 seconds to tell you what we do differently. And if that interests you, you let us know. And I'd love to come take a look at your home.
Sounds
And
good.
there's so much value in being able to tell somebody that you do something different and then prove it. Because otherwise you're just like their last agent. You're giving them all these promises from their for sale or from their expired listing, all these promises that you're going to sell their house and you're going to market it and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what my last agent told me. All right. Those are my two pieces of advice. Those are some of the things that we do to have a different conversation with our sellers. So, all right. That's it for me on that piece. Do you guys have any questions? We got a little bit of time. We're going to talk about the 120-day challenge. We're going to give Trevor an opportunity to chat a little bit about Vulcan 7. Okay. But before we get to that, any questions or thoughts or concerns or refutes?
Nick, you mentioned your two-step process for the listing. Was that like kind of like the pre-listing stuff and then the actual listing appointment? Were those the two?
Mine's a listing appointment. So I go on the listing appointment with a large range of comps. Hey, places in your neighborhood have sold anywhere from 450 to 500,000. I can't give you a proper price until I see the condition of your home. And that's why I wanted to come over today. Thanks for the opportunity to see it. Here's my process from here. In the next 24 hours, I'm going to go home. I'm going to refine my comps, sharpen my pencil a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll send you a seller's net sheet, so you can have a pretty good idea of what you're going to put in your pocket after you sell. I'll give you 3 price points, 460, 470, 480. Okay. If all that looks good and you want to move forward, I'll send you a listing. I'll send you all the listing documentation and we'll go from there. So I'm not trying to actually get the listing signed while I'm there. I'm on the second communication. That's the only difference.
Thank you.
Yeah. Some people don't like that. They're like, no, get the listing while you're there. I don't know. I feel it to be less salesy for me to go, hey, let me fine tune a couple of things. And then it's also generally the way that I negotiate my commission. I don't talk about my compensation at the listing appointment unless they ask me. I don't bring it up. And then what I do is I send them a net sheet that has the compensation listed on it. And I say, take a look at that bottom line. How does that look? And they go, yeah, that looks good to me. And I go, perfect. And then I send them a listing agreement with the compensation in it. And if they ask, okay, so I saw your compensation is whatever percent in here. And I go, yeah, if you remember when you looked at this, the seller net sheet, that was already accounted for on there. So that bottom line that you liked, that includes all the compensation and fees that go along with your sale.
Nick, we have some questions in the chat.
Oh, here we go. Beautiful. Let me see. Let me try to run through these real quick. Let's see. How do you source numbers for neighbors for circle prospecting? Trevor's going to talk about that with us a little bit. And do you check against the do not call registry? I'll let him talk about that too. My question from one of your sides, what's a fellow? Fellow is a company that we partner with. Oh, learn one new thing with Fellow. I think just learn one new thing. Fellow's the piece of software that we use for working deals. Let's see, Michael, what is Fellow? What do you do in the net sheet with a buyer side commission? Okay, again, that's a good question, but I kind of generally put, and I know this is probably not the greatest thing, but you put kind of what the expectation can be. Okay, and I'll tell you, I do things, I don't know how you guys are doing your listing stuff right now. I make it really clear. I put my compensation in the listing agreement, and then I put buyer or seller, I put it in the additional provisions. Seller agrees to pay a co-op commission as negotiated in the contract to buy and sell. And so what happens is they're not agreeing to pay any commission up front. So when a buyer's agent calls me and says, "What are you paying for commission?" I say, we don't have a compensation agreement for buy side. Put it in your offer, and we're just taking the best net offer. And then it forces the buyer's agent to put in the compensation that they've already agreed upon with the buyer. And then all I have to do to go to my seller is say, "Hey, they're asking for 2%, 2.8%, whatever. What would you like to do with that?" And I've already set the expectation through a conversation that says, "Hey, we're probably going to get requests around 2.8, 2.5, 2%, whatever."
Nick, can you repeat that verbiage that you put in the listing contract?
Yes, I put specifically, seller agrees to pay a co-op commission as negotiated in the contract to buy and sell. It's saying you agree to pay it, like I'll pay it, but it's got to be negotiated. So if somebody comes in and asks for 4%, just say no. If the net offer is not very good and we want to counter the commission instead of the offer, sure, we can do that. Okay, and then I just create a verbal understanding or expectation. Let's go with Trevor. Here's the giveaways for today. If you want to snap that QR code, okay, we're going to give you a copy of the 3-2-1 system. We'll give you the class action advantage system, and we're also going to give you scripts for circle prospecting, which I just talked about, and scripts for expired listing action plans, which I also just talked about. Okay, and then as a bonus, we're going to give you 8651. Okay, this is how to get 86 transactions out of your top 50, working 1 hour a day in your top 50. Okay, and it's incredibly powerful. The top 50 is a business-changing concept if you're not already working it. Dean asks, do you include the expectation of total seller buyer compensation package? In the listing agreement, no. Usually just by conversation or in an email or something like that. But again, oh yes, in the net sheet, yes I do. I just putting in 6%. 3.2 to me, 2.8 to buyer. So yes, in the net sheet, I'll put in the expectation. 120-day listing challenge. Okay, we had a couple hundred people involved last year. I would love to see 300, 400, 500 people get involved in the listing challenge. It is supremely motivating. I can tell you, even for like a person like myself, I had my best summer. I had my best 4 months I've ever had in the listing challenge last year. Okay, it was unbelievable, and the best, the best win from that was I guess the amount of money and the amount of homes I sold in a 4-month period, right? And it was just the one thing that the listing challenge did for me was it encouraged me to accept listings that I normally wouldn't have taken, that I've either give to a team member or that I just be like, yeah, I'm not going to work that. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to work it. It's the challenge. I'm going to do another deal. And I'm glad I did it, right? So the 100-day listing challenge, 120-day listing challenge, we have all kinds of things to either get you that, keep you on track and challenge you with the other people that are in the that are in the challenge. We have this cool leaderboard that updates all the time, and you can go in and see how you're doing. And we track listing appointments, we track listings, closings, that type of stuff. And then we have 6 calls during that time with just some things that we continue to talk about the changing market and how we get into more listings. And then we also have our prospecting calls, which is just kind of a thing to keep you accountable and help you get on the phone. And there's somebody there that'll talk about a script. Okay. And then you'll have 45 minutes, 50 minutes to kind of dial. And then we give out a bunch of gift cards and give away a bunch of free stuff. So there's some really cool stuff, some great prizes usually at the end of this. And I encourage you guys, the biggest prize is how many more listings you'll do. So Vulcan 7, Trevor and his company are sponsoring this. And for the next, I think it's 3 days until the 14th. So today, tomorrow, well, 4 days then. Today, tomorrow, the third, or no, I guess it's 3 days. Okay, so until the 14th to the end of Friday, if you sign up and you use the code Nick Painz, Nick P, you get $25 off the listing challenge. So sign up in the next 3 days, you get $25 off, and it's going to be awesome. And it starts April 1st, right, Taylor? Yep. Okay, April 1st.
Yep.
So, Trevor, give us a little bit about Vulcan 7.
Thank you. Yeah, great transition. So everything that Nick was going over as far as circle prospecting, working on building up your SOI through outbound calls, being proactive. What's Vulcan 7, our job is to make sure that you have all the data and all the leads you need for now business leads to be able to get to that point. So Vulcan 7, what we are is we're a lead gen platform. We provide you with expired data, FSBOs, investors, circle prospecting, a whole circle prospecting tool that allows you to search for leads like pre-foreclosures, absentees, high equity, and the list goes on as far as searching anywhere in the country for those type of now business leads with 2 single line TCPA compliant dialers in our full CRM platform. So during this 120-day challenge, we're like, I just want to personally introduce myself. So I'll be actively hopefully working with a lot of you through that 120 days. We'll be able I'll be able to help answer any questions, walk you through the platform, and make sure that we're doing everything in our power to make sure that you have the best data possible to get in touch with these homeowners. So I'm very excited, and yeah, any deals or anything, we'll be able to talk more about that in the future.
That's awesome. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Trevor, we're going to be doing something with you as well, where are we going a little bit more in depth with kind of the product line and teaching people how to use it?
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll be scheduling some demos to go over like deep into the platform. I'll be able to help out. Like I think there's a WhatsApp that I'll be actively checking, make sure I can help answer any questions. Oh, and Mark in the chat who asked about the DNC, all of our numbers are, just a heads up, all of our numbers are crossed on the DNC. So you'll have the opportunity to skip those or call those if you like. But yeah, I'll be as available as I possibly can in the 120 days to make sure you're getting everything you need.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a sponsor. And guys, if you got team members or people that are just, I don't know where to get leads, this is where you get leads. It takes like a little bit of discipline to sit down and call some people that, 1 in 10 people are going to move in the United States every year, right? So like, let's find those people. You make 100 phone calls and 10 people pick up, one of them is going to move this year, and let's get that person using us. So it's just a numbers game, just like anything else. So people are sitting around not knowing what to do with their time. Companies like Vulcan 7 give you the opportunity to give your team members a way to lead gen and not just sit around and wait. Perfect. Couple of we'll celebrate some of our winners from the last listing challenge. I don't know if they're on the call today, but Priscilla Shields was had 21 new listings during our 120-day challenge last year. I think the majority of us would love to have 21 listings in a year. She did it in 120 days. It's a phenomenal thing to see the production that we get. Edwin got 19 listings during that time. And then my favorite one, sorry, I have to have a favorite, Jenny Wilson. She got 53 listing appointments. Jenny's one of my coaching clients. So very proud of Jenny. Jenny probably had, I don't know, Jenny, how many listing appointments did you have last year? Can you like just ballpark real quick?
I would probably say between 2 and 225.
She had 200 to 225 listing appointments last year. And where do you get those listing appointments? What's your daily activity, Jenny?
I prospect in the mornings for an hour, expireds and for sell by owners.
Every single day, right?
Yes.
Every single work day for an hour.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So 220 listing appointments, prospecting 1 hour a day. It's pretty impressive. Okay. So 120-day listing challenge. there's your QR code to go check it out. Use the promo code NICP to get signed up. And this challenge is open to everyone. Okay, so you got like office mates or desk mates or people in your community or post it on Facebook. Like, let's get a bunch of people. The more people, the better. The calls are better if there's more people. The scoreboard's better if there's more people. It's really fun. So I'll be hosting it for you guys. So we'll have our kickoff call. Do we know when our kickoff call for this is, Taylor? Is it going to be on April 1st? Is that how we do this? We kick off on April 1st?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. So April 1st is our kickoff call. So we got a little bit of time. Start getting those listing appointments out of the way and, get them right so they start on April 1st so you can start day one and be in the lead. Last piece. I know we ran a minute or two late here, but just keep your eyes out. We've got Burl is putting out his first book, Raving Referrals for Real Estate Agents, on February 25th. So he and Brandon Barnum kind of partnered to do this. And we've got a lot of great testimonials in the book and some really cool stuff. Talks about strategies and systems to help you as real estate professionals just kind of create that consistent business that I think we all strive for and do it through referrals. So that's it for me. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. Have a takeaway that you can take home and implement and put into your business. I thank you all for being here and for the opportunity to support you guys in your business. And if there's ever anything that I can do or anything that Workman or any of our coaches can do for you, we have one of the most giving communities and abundant mindset communities out there. Every single one of our coaches is fantastic and is just always willing to share and help people grow. So please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything that you need. Hope to see you in the listing challenge and have a great rest of your week. Happy Valentine's Day.
Nick, can I ask you one more question? This is Ellie Feldman. How are you?
Hey, Ellie.
Hey, what was the phrase that you said on when you do tell your sellers, when your 45-second spiel of like what you did differently when you explain circle prospecting, you asked them one question. What was the question you asked them? Have you ever been called before about, I can't remember the exact verbiage you used. Yeah,
so I lead them into what I know they don't know the answer to. So
yes.
Hey, let me ask you, I know you were listed before. Did your agent do any type of circle prospecting? And they're gonna say no because they don't know what that is.
Right.
Right. And so it's a bait for them to go, no, I don't know what that is. Cool. So what it is, it's actually a proactive approach to selling your home instead of a reactive. Normally what happens is an agent comes in, they put a sign in your yard, they put the property on the MLS, they do a little bit of marketing, maybe hold an open house, right? And then they wait for their phone to ring. We do it a little bit differently. We take a proactive approach. We make outbound calls to try to find you a buyer.
Yep.
Okay? And we do that through circle prospecting. So we pull reports for phone numbers of the closest 200, 250, 500, whatever you want to say, homes in your area. And we call them and ask them if their friends or family or anybody they know might be looking to move to the area. Okay. Cool. And then I'll say something like this that I think gives me a little bit more credibility. I'll be like, and Ellie, I got to be perfectly honest with you. Do we always find a buyer that way? No. But if I think it has even a 2% chance to find you a buyer and I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm doing you a disservice as my client. Because if I'm not doing everything possible to sell your home, then what are you paying me for?
I love it. Thanks,
Okay.
Nick.
Yep.
You give me some good ideas when I think I know them all.
I love it. I love it. Right. So, guys, I think last piece that she brought up there is I love the opportunity to be able to show somebody that I'm not perfect. Okay. And that the reality is like, I'm not, circle prospecting is not the reason that I'm going to sell your home always. In fact, it's rarely going to be the reason that I sell your home. Okay. But I'll tell you, it takes the level of stress off of me. Like, how many of you guys have stress in your lives, in your real estate business? Like, I want to encourage you to get to a point of no stress. And when you're a listing agent, let me tell you how to do that very simply. Do everything you know possible to sell the home. And if you do all those things and the home doesn't sell, you have a pricing problem. And then it's really easy to go to your seller and be like, hey, Dom, I got to be honest, man, we got to do a price reduction. And there's no way, the only way I'm going to stress is if I know he can come back and be like, well, did you hold an open house? And I go, well, I didn't do that. Well, did you talk to the neighbors? No, I didn't do that. Well, did you send out mailers? No, I didn't do that. Did you do online marketing? No, I didn't do that. If he can come up with something that I didn't do to sell his house, I'm going to stress knowing I have to have that conversation. But if I know I did everything possible to sell his home at the current price and it didn't sell, I don't stress about asking about a price reduction. It's so easy. Dom, we've done everything we know to sell at this price and we can't do it. We need to price reduce. And it makes that conversation so much easier and it removes all the stress. Conversation helps, Ellie, with your team members. So.
No, it's awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Cool. All right, everybody. We'll see you. Have a great rest of your day.